Okay.
Welcome to Expert Views on ADR Ever, a podcast about simplifying the traditional African method of settling disputes or the appropriate dispute resolution ADR in a bid to attract more users to settle their disputes or conflicts with mediation, ombuds, collaborative law, arbitration, restorative justice, early dispute resolution, negotiation, conciliation, and of course, early neutral evaluation. My name is DrChinweEgbunike, the marketing liaison of Ombuds Day 2024 American Bar Association Dispute Resolution and the host of Expert Views on ADR Ever video podcast show. I'm delighted to welcome Herschenia Brown to the Ever show. She is a thought leader in workplace bullying and serves as the Vice Chair of Programming for the Diversity Committee of the American Bar Association Dispute Resolution and on the advisory board for the National Workplace Bullying Coalition, which is working to pass legislation to recognize bullying in the workplace as a toxic epidemic and create accountability. Herschenia is an ombudsman, employment mediator, corporate consultant, speaker, and of course, an Amazon best-selling and award-winning author. She wears many hats, so I've left the link to her profile below. Welcome to the show, Herschenia.
Thank you. Thank you so very much for having me, Chinwe. I appreciate the invite.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show for the second time. I'm so grateful. I'm so excited to have you as well. So without further ado, the first question is, what is ADR and does it present a suitable mechanism to advance discrimination, bullying, and harassment?
So ADR stands for Alternative Dispute Resolution. So those are the methods and the professional resources that help with conflict resolution and dispute resolution. A lot of them are attorneys. Some of them are in the field of psychiatry. You know, they're in different fields and backgrounds, but they really help to resolve disputes in any type of industry. In any type of community as well, because you do have them also in your local communities, like within police departments. But ADR is just a different way of helping to resolve disputes in the workplace or in your community.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so very much. So which of these processes would you best say that can be used to prevent bullying, discrimination, or harassment? So which of them are most suitable? Yeah. Sorry.
To prevent, So from a front end perspective, I would definitely say the ombuds for sure, and as well as a workplace mediator. So that's what I do. I do both of those workplace mediations, and hopefully wanted to expand the employment mediation part of it, because it's kind of two separate things. They kind of overlap in a way, but the employment mediation pretty much comes after an employee has gone the legal route, maybe through the EEOC or had sought an attorney, and they may or may not be working for the organization anymore. But a workplace mediator would come in to help resolve the dispute before it gets to that path, before it escalates. And they're sitting down with the mediator, figure out what are next paths in order for them to move forward with whatever their work relationship is.
Yeah.
And ombuds for sure too.
Yeah. Why would you choose both of them?
Why would you choose both of them?
Yeah.
Well, I do. For me, they're two separate services. So I wouldn't do one and the other at the same time, because as an ombuds, you do facilitate, you do like informal mediations, even though a lot of ombuds don't like to use the word mediation because it's normally for a formal process. But they do, ombuds do facilitate discussions between parties, or even for a group of people that are having issues or concerns or some type of conflict. A workplace mediator, because I've been contracted to do this as well. When they don't want an ombuds, they have two people that they know, or they may have a circumstance that they know that they really need to just get ahead of, and they are hired contract me to come in to help to resolve the issue.
Okay.
And then I will tell them about the ombuds services for future references.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. Oh, thank you so very much. So what laws and employers' legal obligations are in place to prevent such offenses or behaviors?
Well, here in the States, there aren't any laws to protect people from being bullied.
Yeah.
Bullying is more so considered like unwelcomed and uncomfortable behavior from whoever you are being bullied by, and we call that person who is being bullied a target or a victim, which I don't know. Some people like to use one word and one term and not the other.
Oh.
But there aren't any laws in place. Now I am a former board member for the National Workplace Bullying Coalition.
Yeah.
As of last year, I transitioned off, but I know that they were working state by state, and because it's a small collective, so they're trying to do as much work as they can with the resources that they can to push legislation to make bullying illegal. Now, harassment is illegal, but employers don't see
illegal. Sorry, did you say illegal? Okay.
Yeah, harassment, retaliation, those are illegal.
Okay.
But they don't consider here in the States, they don't consider bullying so much harassment, which I don't understand why. It's more so the way that I look at it and what I have been speaking on in terms of defining it and understanding it is to me abuse. It's considered abuse, and that's what I'm kind of working into my book, the book that I'm writing about corporate America and workplace bullying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm hoping that things change here very soon.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So how about harassment? Any form of harassment, is it illegal?
Harassment, yeah, like sexual harassment, yes, that is illegal in the workplace. Absolutely. Yes, and through that you will go through a formal channel. Well, the person will go through a formal channel if they are comfortable with going in that direction. But like anytime you go through a formal channel, that is a great resource for the employer to have. But it has its pros and cons. So you can definitely expect there to be some type of investigation, and depending on who the person is, if that person is in some level of management over your position or has influence over your position, they could very well start the retaliation process. Very subtle, but they can do it. They can get away with it if they feel like there's a business justification for you to not be working there anymore.
Oh my days. Oh. Thank you.
Well, they won't feel like it is, but if they could write it in your file to justify to the organization that you no longer need to be put in that position, when the steps that they're taking is basically retaliation.
Oh, that's sad. So that leads to the next question: what common barriers do employees face, and at their workplace?
You said what current barriers?
Common barriers do employees face when reporting such behavior or offenses?
So, like I was saying, retaliation is the common one. There are, people are very if they've been in that position for a while, or if they have colleagues that give them instructions or guidance on how to do it without getting caught, to be more inconspicuous. But you can tell if you've been working there for a while and you've had great performance reviews, and all of a sudden after you have reported this issue, your entire working relationship with this person has shifted and to a negative perspective. For instance, like if it's your manager and you had a great working relationship with your manager, then you had this issue that you brought to a formal channel, and all of a sudden at this point you're getting your workload is being decreased. You're not getting invited to meetings. The person is talking to you very directly. They are putting unnecessary demands on you for you to get work done. things of that sort. And then comes the corrective action. They're placing PIPs or something of that sort to put you on corrective action, basically trying to line things up to terminate you. And if by that point, if you're realizing, you see the handwriting on the wall, you're going to start putting some legal measures in place.
Okay, thank you so very much. So, okay, could you say that in the US that employees are not encouraged to report this behavior offenses, to their line manager or even HR?
They are actually they are encouraged to do that. They definitely can speak to their manager, their line manager, supervisor, manager, director, whoever. They can speak to anybody that they feel comfortable with. The problem is a lot of employees do not trust those resources, especially if I am having the issue with you as my line manager. I'm not going to come to you to talk to you about the issue. I'm probably not even going to go to your manager. That may be I may outweigh the pros and cons, because I might be concerned that you might tell that person, listen, because that you report to that person, that person who is bullying or harassing you reports to that person. So obviously they're going to probably share with that person, bring them into the office that they're having that someone who works for them came to them to report an issue. But some people go around and may talk to another colleague or someone who may be in a different department to get some advice. You have people have their own personal groups, that they might talk to somebody in church or some other resource that they may be connected to, or they may go to human resources. They may go to employee engagement, which is supposed to be a confidential resource as well. It depends on how helpful those resources are. And, again, if the employee feels like they can trust that resource.
Okay, thank you. So what cultural nuances aid and abet such offenses in the US?
So I would think that, well, for me being African American, there are a lot for cultural nuances. So it could be me with my hair being natural, or the way I wear my hair. For a long time, when I would even do interviews, when my hair was, because I've had my hair natural since 2010, so almost 14 years. And I would wear a straight wig, so that a person, whoever I'm interviewing with, would be comfortable with interviewing me and won't be focused on my hair, but focused on my responses to their questions, so they can know that I am a great fit for this position. So a lot of Black women do that, actually. We're getting to coming to a point to where more Black women are standing in their power and their authority for their natural beauty, and wanting to make sure that they are seen for that and their talent and their skills. But yeah, a person's cultural background, the way they talk, even someone who is disabled, that type of nuance could cause discrimination in the workplace as well, bullying, discrimination, all types of things. But when you talked before, when you asked before, I think that more so the language barrier, or like I said, a person brings their culture into the workplace, not necessarily to impose it on somebody, but they're proud of their own heritage and culture, so they may wear their colors or their garments or something, like I said, with their hair. I hate to say this, I hate to use this word. This is something that, we are used to saying, that in terms of differences. But when you're using differences, you use that term, that means that you are comparing it to a standard. So that means that this is a standard, and if it's not the standard, then it's different from that standard. So I think that those nuances, those cause problems. Even educational barriers too. Those are barriers as well. You can have somebody, a manager, who may have a bachelor's degree, but has hired somebody that has a master's degree or a doctorate degree. So they are feeling intimidated because they feel like they're more educated than them.
Thank you so very much for that. So, Hershenia, can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. So have you experienced bullying, discrimination, or harassment at your workplace?
I have. I talked about three separate issues that I experienced with three separate employers, but I can now add one more to the mix. And it seems to be prevalent. I have friends who I've talked to where we were just like, why do we keep going through these? I mean, are we attracting toxic workplaces or toxic insecure managers? Because a lot of it has to do with a person who is like myself, who's very ambitious and assertive, but I love to figure out ways we can do things to help improve or help bring some type of just greatness, overall greatness and light to our department. You know, if there's something that I see that where we can do the process a little bit smoother and streamlined, because I have a background in project management and process improvement, I'm going to suggest that. So, but it's up to the manager or the leader to determine whether or not we're going to move in that direction. But as me being a part of the team, you know, you would think that, or anybody being a part of the team, anybody that gives a suggestion is providing some type of contribution, and you would appreciate that. But people, I've seen attract managers who would rather, and I don't, and I think part of this is also a racial component, would rather me be seen and not heard. Like, just do what I told you. And that's like, they don't want you to be assertive if there is an issue and you're coming them to address an issue, which you should. You should be able to be comfortable with doing that. And your manager should be like, well, look, you know, let's take a look at this. Let's look at this from all perspectives. And I want to listen to you because I value you. And the managers that I've had, as well as some of my friends, people that I know, especially Black women, have had managers that they choose not to see them, they choose not to hear them, and they feel like I did. At the end of the day, I feel I didn't feel as worthy or valuable to the organization, and I also felt like I was being treated like I was incompetent, even though I'm coming in with like lessons learned or best practices for us to do things better. So that's how it gets portrayed. But I had to realize it's not me, it's them. So maybe I just wasn't a good fit for that organization.
I like the word you used. I can relate to that. Not heard. You know,
yes,
you can be seen, but you know, you're not allowed to have an opinion or make suggestions, you know, or even when you do that, when you know, air your opinion or suggestions, they, you know, wouldn't be taken, or it wouldn't be acknowledged.
yes.
Yeah.
And even with that, it's like you can figure out a way to voice that suggestion in a way to where you're encompassing the entire team. So you can say, like, I think that this would be a great idea for us, or I was thinking that we can do this. And but you're not, it's not like you're telling your manager what to do. But when you're working for a person that is highly insecure, they're not good with making leadership decisions, or they don't have the interpersonal skills to even have a team, let alone, you know, have people of color on their team if they're not a person of color, then that creates a huge issue, a huge barrier and concern. And that's what's happening across a lot of companies and organizations. And while you're seeing so many people now voicing their issues with organizations now, and basically exposing them for bullying, discrimination, and racism in the workplace.
Thank you so very much. So did you report when you experienced those behaviors?
Yeah, I did. And that was never my first choice. I would always, I'll tell you, I'm sorry, my nose is running.
Oh, that's
It's a little chilly where I am right now, but I had the heat on and off. My first method or strategy would be to talk to somebody else. So I have a couple of people in my family that work in human resources. So I would kind of get their thoughts about how to approach it. And I also have a therapist too. So if I had a therapist at the time, I would even ask them, because I believe in therapy, how to approach it.
That's a good one.
Then I would kind of just do some self-work if it continues, because, if it continues now, it's creating more of an issue for me. And if things are happening in the workplace that could be toxic or harmful, it's going to start to affect your mental health. So I would talk to the manager. I would have a conversation with them directly. With all of these people, I've had to have more than one conversation with them in all 4 cases with the manager before it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out how we can work this out before I go the human resources route or before I contact the EEOC. It would never get handled because they all felt like they were in a position of authority. So they were in a position, they felt like they were in a position of authority, but power and authority are 2 different things. You can be a leader and influence, or you can have power and asserting your authority. And that's what they did. And it's like, okay, now I have to go to the next measure, the next line of whatever I need to do to get this taken care of, because this is, it's affecting my mental health, and I'm coming into work. And, when you're going through that, it's not just what you're dealing with at work. You have to, when you're going home to your family, and then they're seeing the toll that it's taking on you as well. So they're getting the residue effects of what you're experiencing, which is not fair to them either. It's not fair to you.
Yeah, 100%. So were you ostracized? How did you feel after reporting? Was the how was the environment? Was it still conducive, or were you ostracized?
Yeah, so yeah, I was ostracized. Well, the last one wasn't. She just was like, okay, I'm just gonna let you go. She didn't even try to figure out. I mean, she went straight to human resources, and then a week later, that was it. She didn't even try to figure out how we can talk and work through this. And we were both dispute resolution professionals, and HR didn't even hear my side of the story. So I don't know what story she told. I just know what I received from her. And she was the culprit of it. So I was coming to her to let her know, what can we do to make this relationship less stressful? Because this is what I'm getting on my side, and this is how I'm feeling. And again, I had already talked to her a couple of times about what can we do, or, how can we improve in this area? We were doing great at first, and then it kind of went downhill. But in her mind, she just kept centering herself around the fact that I was coming to her about something that was related to her. So by her being in a power and a position of authority, she just rather just get rid of me. That is a dangerous person to have in leadership. All 4 people. So, but the other ones, there was definitely ostracizing. I would have people who were who worked in the department that I would normally communicate with. I might even go get coffee with or something like that, and all of a sudden nobody is talking to me because they feel like I'm the plague, because they know that my manager and I are having issues. And again, it was never, I'm coming in to tell you, I'm being disrespectful, I'm yelling, I'm threatening, I'm doing anything. This is mainly me saying, this is what I'm feeling, or this is what I feel like after going through this. And here are some things to confirm that. Like, if you need me to give you some examples, here are some examples. And then all of a sudden there's a problem. So
I'm so sorry to hear that.
But a lot of people have gone through that. And again, I cannot stress, mostly Black women that are the ones that I've talked to, they have dealt, because it's another component when you include racism in it. And actually, one of my managers was a black woman. She was a Black woman, but the person she reported to was a white male. I had no issues with him. It was more so her. So it was that proximity to whiteness for her, benefiting from a system that embodied oppression, because she was the culprit of it. It was almost like what my friend said. I sat on a panel 2 or 3 days ago for Whistleblowers of America, and my colleague who was on the panel said that it's you like it to when you go back to the era of slavery, which was not that long ago. We're not far removed from that at all, where you had a slave master who would put a Black person over the slaves, one of the slaves over the other slaves. So that person would do everything that the slave master would tell them to do, and they benefited from that. they might have gotten some extra type of benefit from it, but they were the person. It's no different than what I experienced for people of color who have experienced having to report to a Black person in the workplace who is having that proximity to whiteness, where they feel like they need to block you from doing anything because they don't want you to get the same benefits that they got from somebody in authority over them who was white. And again, like I said, I had no issues with her manager. She was the one that was promoting me because he saw my value, but she didn't like that. She did not like that. As soon as she became my manager, she cut all of that off.
Yeah. Sorry, can I take you back to what you said? Is it proximity to the white man?
I'm sorry?
Proximity to the white man?
I wouldn't say white man. I would say proximity to whiteness.
Whiteness? Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Okay.
Before I write it down in the description, so I wanted to ascertain. Sorry.
I want to say that because I have people who are all types of races, cultures, in the background, white, brown, Black. I have all types of friends who have been allies, who have been really diligent about this work as well. So they see it. They see the difference. They see the issue. People who have really not experienced. Now, I'm not talking about someone who has not experienced bullying, because it doesn't matter who you are and what your race is or what your background is, what your culture, where you came from, wherever. If a person can experience bullying regardless, right? But when you include that intersection of racism component, that's where it gets more complicated and traumatic.
Okay. Thank you so very much. And I feel sorry about what you went through. So Hershenia, so what can you so what advice or what is your perspective on how organizations or institutions can create a culture of inclusion and diversity that encourages employees to come forward to report such offenses, or when they experience such ill experience at the workplace?
So I think there are a couple of things. One of the reasons why I got into this work is because I no longer wanted to be angry or be like that angry employee or continue to have victim mentality. I do recognize that as you go up to certain people in higher positions really have no clue of what's going on in other departments. So they're completely oblivious to certain cultures that are within their own organization, right? So my thing was I wanted to be that bridge and that gap for both the employee and the employer. And the perfect way to do that by being independent would be an ombudsman. So for me, it's kind of twofold. I would think that creating a company or a work culture of trust is very important. I can't stress that enough. One is creating the trust, and the second thing would be making sure that you are enforcing the policies for everyone. Like, you can't have certain people getting away with things and there be no accountability for them. Because what I have seen and what others have seen is, and I've posted this as well, a lot of times these people who are doing the bullying or the retaliation or harassment, whatever, if they are in good with managers or in cahoots with other people, a lot of times they get promoted. They get and they continue to get promoted. And like the one person I was telling you about, she's gotten promoted a few times. She's like a executive now. So you have, because it's like you have some people who they target somebody. As soon as they get rid of one person, they target the next person.
It's
so
like sort of click or something. They form a click.
So enforcing those policies that you have created, or creating more policies that are going to protect all of your employees from this type of behavior, and enforcing them. That trust and that enforcement are very important. and having those resources in place, those neutral resources in place where people can go to when they have issues and problems, like anonymous.
Thank you so very much. So would you say that that should be in place, at the time of your employment for employees to sign this agreement? Should that be put in place? Yeah.
Well, there are some clauses in your employment agreement, just like people really don't read their employment agreements. You know what I mean? Unless you have somebody, like if you're coming in and you have an attorney, you have like a higher position and you have an attorney that has negotiated your contract for you. But when you're talking about line level employees or managers or even directors, when they're coming through the door, unless they're negotiating like their salary or their vacation or something like that, they're not really negotiating certain back end things in their agreement. And a lot of times companies have clauses like arbitration clauses, especially if they have unions, they have arbitrations, but they have clauses in place where if there is a dispute between the employee and the employer, then they will go through arbitration. Mediation always is you can mediate at any given time, but if you go like a route with EEOC would encourage mediation, but both parties have to agree to it. Other than that, they will continue with their investigation. But yeah, they just have to put some things in place and people have to read the contracts, but like nobody really does that.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you so very much. So in final question, so in creating safe spaces via ADR, how can ADR be used to create safe spaces or even encourage better reporting of the occurrences of these offenses?
Sure. So I'm just going to give Ambuzz as an example. Ambuzz would do a lot of outreach, especially if it's a newly established office, to let the constituents know that this is an office that people can rely on and trust to come in for any concerns. Once, an Ambuzz or even if a person is doing like a workplace mediation, if they're constantly being called in or contracted to do workplace mediations and they're seeing that there is a consistent trend of an issue, they can always let executive leadership know. Like I'm seeing, like I've been called in and this is what I'm seeing as a pattern. Of course, that people that are contracting you, they know that there's something going on. They probably know what it is. 100%. They just don't know how to resolve it. They need a third party to come in. But an Ambuzz normally in their annual reporting, or even if they see it's a trend in a department, they would normally suggest some things that need to be put in place. They won't create the policies or tell leadership what they need to do, but they would make suggestions to influence change if they are seeing a consistent pattern of something going on that is creating a certain like a toxic or difficult or unhealthy work culture for employees.
Well, thank you so very much, Hershenia. We're running out of time. I do appreciate you, your insights and perspectives, and of course, sharing that with us. I believe the not potential users, well, the HRs and organizational leaders would embrace all you have stated here, and of course, create safe spaces via ADR. And of course, this is a masterclass. I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so very much, Hershenia.
Thank you, Chinwe. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, sorry. I need to pause it for